Hey, this is Mark A. Altman from Inglorious Trexperts. And if you like our show, Inglorious Trexperts, you'll love Disco Nights with host Chase Masterson and special guests every week. All new episodes premiere every Thursday night wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hello, this is not Gene Roddenberry, but if I was around, I would definitely be listening to Inglorious Trexperts, the new podcast from the people who brought you the 430 movie. Check it out, 430movie.com.
Hey, this is Mark A. Altman, and welcome to the 430 movie with your favorite 430 movie host. What time is it? Well, last we heard, Tanya Roberts is still alive. So that's great news. And we're here with our fabulous 430 movie host, Mr. Darren Docterman.
Hi there.
Mr.
I'm Tuesday.
I know. I'm not going by the days of the week. It's guilty pleasures. I'm going with my favorite days of the week. Thursday, Mr. Ashley Edward Miller.
Except on Wednesday.
Yes, Wednesday. That's right. Indeed you are. Wednesday, Ashley Edward Miller. And starting the week off right, it's Mr. Stephen Melching.
On Thursday, guilty.
Well, guys, it's back. We're ready for Guilty Pleasure Strike Back. You loved it last year, and we're back with some more horrible movies that we love. And it's going to be fun. It'll be interesting to see what people say. And I always love to read the feedback on Twitter to see what you say, what your favorite Guilty Pleasures are. I have to admit, it was very easy for me last time to pick because it was one movie that stood head and shoulders above the others. This time it's a little difficult. Can you refresh our memory what your picks were for the first Guilty Pleasure, Steve Melching?
Mine was Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando.
Very good.
Let off some steam.
I kill you last, Steve. So, Darren Docterman, Tuesday, what was your pick?
Mine was Good Journey, The Masters of the Universe.
Masters of the Universe. That was Darren's pick. Directed by auteur Gary Goddard. And Thursday on Thursday, it's Wednesday. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's a new year, and I don't know what I'm talking about. I've been cooped up too long. Wednesday, Ashley, what was your pick?
Howard the Duck.
Ooh. Could forget. Who could forget Howard the Duck with the great Tim Robbins and Leah Thompson. And, of course, my pick for Thursday was the classic Cannon Films released based on the book by Norman Mailer, Tough Guys Don't Dance. And that was a hell of a week. And for Friday, our consensus pick was another Cannon Films classic, Tobe Hooper's Life Force. Of course, Life Force was actually directed by Steven Spielberg, but he didn't want to take credit for it. No,
Tobe Hooper was fully responsible for Life Force.
I'll tell you, I remember I actually did a Q&A with Tobe Hooper at the Arrow Theater. We showed a 70 millimeter print of Life Force, and that was fun.
That's a lot of millimeters.
Many
for that
millimeters.
movie.
That's
a lot of millimeters.
70 millimeters high. That's a lot of pixels.
It's a lot of rails back is what it is.
And that week of movies from last time, there's more guilt in that week than Catholic Church confessional booth. What?
Right? But you know what? You look at that week and it's like, if that was your film festival for the week, it would be a lot of fun. You would have
It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it would be fun. Or it would be, we could call it the Ashley E. Miller Film Festival because every day would be like your Wednesday.
Yeah, but see, that was the problem that I had last time, which was, is my guilty pleasure so out of the box, it should be like Hannah and her sisters. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah. I understand. It's so funny because I heard your voice wafting through the house and I was wondering what was going on. And I realized it was my wife listening to 430 movie. And she listens to it, but she was a little behind. She was saying it was Criterion Week. She said, "Oh, this is a really good week." I said, "Yes, it was." I said, "We've only done 5 since then, but it was a good week." But it was weird to hear your voice wafting through through the house.
My
So,
dulcet tones.
Your dulcet, because she used to listen to them in the car, but now she listens to them in her office.
Right now, you could listen to him in the car now, but you just wouldn't go anywhere.
You just drive around.
You just sit in the car and just go.
It's funny. I have to tell you because I have a hybrid, right? And I think I've had to call AAA like 5 times now because a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and I don't use the car.
You got to start it.
Well, now I know that now. I've had the AAA out, and then I had them come, and I guess I didn't drive it around enough because then the next day I went to use it, and it didn't start because I apparently didn't charge the battery enough.
There was a battery, but not
anymore. I think early on in the pandemic, like when everything was like locked down here in LA, I would take my car out once or twice a week and just get on the freeway, and there's nobody on the freeway, and I just go about 5 or 6 exits down, full speed, get off the freeway, and come back to charge my hybrid battery. Got to keep it charged.
That was smart. Did not work. I now know.
Now you know.
Now you're
I'm a movie guy. I wasn't in the car care club when I was, in high school. I was the movie guy. I was now in the car care club. The closest I got to that was watching Christine in high school. So it was not my thing. So I got to ask you guys. So, we're at the beginning of 2021. 2020 is mercifully over. Normally we all sit down and we think about, what our favorite movies were from the previous year. And, I'm reading a lot of these lists. And I got to say, I'm really embarrassed. I haven't heard of most of these movies.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, I don't know what they are. I literally don't know what they are.
I've heard a few of the titles, and I might know a little bit about them, but yeah, they're like, I don't know where you see these things. You stream them, you got to know about them. I don't know. I would have a real hard time putting together a 10 best list for 2020.
I could TV list very easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 Tiger King would, by the way, be at the top of my TV list. Honestly, I think as few shits as the American public has given about the Oscar awards in, say, the last 10 to 15 years, I don't think they will ever give fewer shits about the Oscars than they will in 2021.
Yeah. Let me tell you, the ratings on this year's Oscar will I don't know, if 6 people are going to watch it this year. I don't know what they're going to do to get people to watch the Oscars this year.
Well, there's nothing else that's going to be on. First of all,
no, I don't know if that's true, and I think people counter program. But there's plenty to watch on streaming, so it's like I don't see people watching the Oscars because they don't watch it under the best of times. Yeah. So this year, when there's like literally nothing that anyone's ever heard of, and the things they have heard of they hated, like Wonder Woman 84. What's it gonna be? So I got to ask you. So, did you have a favorite movie and a favorite TV show from last year? Let's start with Monday with Steve Melching.
I'm totally unprepared for this question. I can't even. I can't even think of the movies that I can think of some random movies that I saw that I kind of like, but like
I want to point out to our audience, Steve is unprepared. Now, not only this is a guy. He recently on Facebook, he posted a list of every movie he watched
and television show
and television show
by episode
and by date. It was chronological. Yeah. He chronicled his entire year of movie going and TV watching. And I have to say that for Ashley being your boss, it must have been somewhat upsetting to see you had that much free time.
I didn't really work for Ashley last year, so there you go.
He was out by that time.
Okay, the years just go by so quickly now.
Oh, but I think I keep tabs on friends on Facebook. They post about all the stuff they watch, and I keep thinking, how do they have time to watch all this stuff? Like I watch I don't know, 5 or 6 movies a week, and maybe a couple episodes of TV per day on average.
Right.
That's a lot.
Doesn't seem like that much.
That's a lot.
It's like 3 hours in the evening.
Yeah, that's a lot.
All right. Well, I don't have kids or anything, so I guess I have more time.
Yeah, and he has twins, so he has less time.
Yeah.
Ashley does. Well, look, this episode is about guilty pleasures, and we talked a little bit about what guilty pleasure is.
You're not going to go down
last
the list?
time.
He's not gonna, apparently.
He's not going to go
He
down the
doesn't
list.
care
of
what
the
we
week.
think, Darren.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, Steve was so adamant that he couldn't even begin to answer this question, that it was such a crazy, out of left field thing to ask. So I'm gonna go to Tuesday. What do you do when Monday is a bust? You go to Tuesday. You make your way to Friday. So Darren, tell us what you answer the question. Don't wait for the translation. Answer me now.
I got nothing. I didn't watch anything new this year. Last year. I just wanted to be asked. Is that so wrong?
I don't want to go to prom. I just wanted to be asked.
That was something I consciously did that last year, because there were no new movies coming out of any real interest, and because television was, there was some great TV that came out, like The Crown. I loved The Crown last season. That was terrific. There were some great shows that were on streaming or TV, but I used the opportunity to try to fill in a bunch of those blanks, like classic movies or movies I've always heard about that I've never seen.
Cinema Paradiso, for one.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So I tried every week to watch at least one, if not more, movies that I'd never seen.
I've recently started moving into the episodes of The Crown where they brought in the ugly actors. I'm advancing through that.
I gotta watch these shows. I've had no interest in Bridgerton or The Crown or Downton Abbey. I guess I should probably.
I think Downtown Abbey would be fun. That sounds like a pimp name, doesn't it?
I want to see that. I want to go downtown. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's just Downtown Abbey. She's really something.
I don't know.
Downton Abbey, you can probably get what you need to get out of it after season 1 or 2. It's kind of diminishing returns for me after season 2. But The Crown is fantastic, I think, consistently.
Okay. I gotta consider.
But I want to hear what Ashley liked.
Yes.
Well, yes. We're going to go to Wednesday and see if maybe Ashley actually has an answer to this question.
You mean Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday. Whatever. Call yourself whatever.
I'll tell you. And it's fresh in my mind. I actually haven't finished watching the entire thing, but I will say for the record that I absolutely love so far. About 3/4 of the way through Cobra Kai season 3. Cobra Kai is just a fabulous show, and I feel like in the very, very first episode of this show, the pilot, the seldom seen black and white pilot. Right before NBC ordered a second one.
Yeah.
That Steve brought that up, and we spent a couple of minutes waxing poetic about how wonderful it is, and it's still wonderful 3 seasons later. And then for movies, okay, I'll answer that in 2 ways. Number,
I also have to correct you. Cobra Kai is this year.
Yeah, technically.
No. I'll tell you why not. I'm going to evoke a little-known, seldom-used Netflix early activation clause.
So you didn't watch it when it was on YouTube Red?
I did not. Shit.
No, because when they got rid of original programming, Netflix picked it up. So it was new on Netflix. So I think we'll accept that. I think that's legitimate. Nobody watched YouTube Red.
It's close.
Steven,
anyway,
I did.
I love
Darren came over to my house, and a couple of us got together, and we watched the entirety of season 1 the day it came out. And then a year later, we got together again and watched the entirety of season 2 together. And we were going to do it with season 3, but of course we can't this year.
But it is a wonderful show. And then for movies, I thought I quite enjoyed Let Him Go. With Kevin Costner, Diane Lane, reprising their roles as Ma and Pa Kent. Except, wait,
I thought it was a sequel to Frozen.
Right? No. It's one would think, but actually, I thought it was really kind of interesting. It was a lot darker than I thought it would be, and it was just kind of this weird little Western that I didn't see coming. So I dug that. But I have to say, Mark,
yes,
and this is going to cause you to question everything you know and think you know. That I think the movie that I saw for the first time in 2020 that I enjoyed the most was Annie Hall.
That gives me such joy. That gives me such joy to hear that. I have to tell you.
It should. It's a delightful movie. It's a delightful movie.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I'm looking forward to hearing more as you dive into some of the rest of Woody's oeuvre. Maybe we can actually do a Woody Allen week one day on the show when you've seen enough episodes.
Yeah, exactly. When I've seen all the episodes of the Woody Show.
Yeah. No, it's Woody Woodpecker. Woodpecker. We're not doing
the Woody Allen Pecker show. I don't know that we want to see that show, but
Woody Harrelson week.
Woody Harrelson week. Exactly.
It's just Woody week. It's just movies
Woody.
starring or directed or written by somebody named Woody.
Or with a character.
Named Woody. So, you know what? Let's do Woody week, guys.
Woody Guthrie, Woody the
Maybe we'll
cowboy.
just do movies that would have been better if the Muppets had made them.
Yes.
We can do that week.
I saw on YouTube somebody did a they just composited in Kermit the Frog puppet as Emperor Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith. Do it! It's fantastic. I'll have to say.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
That's awesome.
I'd enjoy that quite a bit. I have to say, for those of you who don't know, Ashley wasn't kidding when he talked about the unaired pilot of the show, because of course the show began as an untitled podcast where the four of us just sat around and bullshitted about things, and we talked about Solo
as opposed to the 4:30 movie.
Yeah,
and I forget what else we talked about, but there was like no real format, and it was very much of that moment. And
we talked about our sound engineer's dating life or something.
That's right. Aaron Ratner. That's right. Oh my God. Yeah. And we realized that there was something that worked about the show, but a lot of things that didn't. Clearly didn't. And so that show, and in fact, that was in the podcast feed for a little while. And then finally we dropped it from the podcast feed. So it just started with the first 4:30 movie.
You realize that there's going to be a clamoring of that unaired episode.
It's going to be a bootleg.
Well, I don't think so, because my plan is to take that episode and cut it into two parts and film.
We'll do like the episode where Steve steals the Enterprise to take me back to Talos 4.
What do you? If you like this episode, beep yes, and if you don't like this episode, beep twice.
I'm stealing this podcast.
Starbase operations. Okay, so again, we find ourselves drifting into Star Trek. But the funny thing is, this is the 4:30 movie where many of the people listening have no interest whatsoever in Star Trek. So if you're interested in Star Trek, you should be listening to Inglorious Trexperts, our sister podcast, which is currently counting down, I think, hour 16 of the 101 greatest
America
sci-fi
held hostage.
Oh my God. Okay, well, the theme today is guilty pleasures. As always, guilty pleasures, or any of our theme weeks, begins with Monday. And so, Steve, tell us what your guilty pleasure is for Monday.
I'm totally unprepared for this. This is a tricky one because the first time we did it, it was pretty easy for me to make my pick to choose Commando. I mean, it's a movie that's not good, but is, I find, endlessly entertaining and fun to watch.
How can you not go Commando, Steve?
Yeah, exactly. It was a good time. When I think when we talked about doing this episode, Ashley said something like, maybe it's not Guilty Pleasures Week. It's like, it's F you, I liked it week. Because I'm not sure. I had narrowed my pick down to like two different movies. And I honestly think they're actually both pretty good movies. So I don't feel that guilty about them. Yeah. I'm proud to admit that I like these movies. And, there are other movies that, I guess I won't mention them because it's possible that one of you might pick them. But there are several movies on my list that maybe when they came out or when I was younger, I would have considered a guilty pleasure. But now I don't. or maybe I don't, but society in general has decided suddenly that these are classic movies. Like, one crazy example, like The Goonies. I think it's a goofy movie, but people of a certain age love that movie, right? And they think it's a great movie, and they're not guilty about it at all.
Damn right, we're not.
Yeah. So it's tricky. And there are a couple of movies like that on my list that I do have a lot of affection for, but I will admit are kind of goofy, but people just love them now and embrace them. So anyway, that's neither here
It's
nor
interesting. It really breaks down by age, doesn't it? Because I mean, I look at all those people that love A View to a Kill, and I'm thinking, what, they should be institutionalized.
Who are these
Like,
people?
how can you?
I don't know.
How can you defend A View to a Kill? And then my assistant and our production associate, the lovely guy Peter Holmstrom, I mean, he just thinks that Batman versus Superman is a classic. And you sit there and you're like, and he's a very intelligent guy who I respect in most cases. But then he says something stupid like that, and it makes you question the universe and the future generations.
That's a movie that paid all my bills for 4 months, and I still hate it.
And there's definitely something to like the age you are when you see something and what's going on in your life or your friends, or you develop a certain bond to it, or if you're seeing it in the sort of the period in which it came out,
like Howard the Duck.
Yeah, exactly. Like, look, man, Lee Thompson. I mean,
well, that I can understand.
I mean, come on, right, guys?
Leah Thompson, no argument from me.
Okay,
well,
cool.
I was more of
a
Jennifer I was more of a Jennifer Connelly.
Oh
fan
yeah,
at
me
that
too.
time.
Well,
but,
I mean, I love them both. I mean,
both
if only they could have done a two-hander, that would have been great, like a buddy cop movie or something.
But a buddy cop movie.
That sounds dirty.
Well, that's a common parlance in feature films and television for two co-stars as opposed to one lead.
Huh.
Okay, so anyway, that said, so Monday.
I'm going to go with my initial instinct for my pick, and I'll discuss my backup at the end of the show. So I'm going with a movie that I really didn't have a lot of anticipation about seeing, although it was made by very famous filmmakers who were kind of at the top of their powers at the time.
Quest for Fire.
Yeah, Quest for Fire. And it was a movie that it had a huge budget, a lot of publicity behind it, wide release. And
I'm writing it down.
I know what I think it.
And it kind of bombed. It opened in, I think, third place at the box office, and it never got any higher than that. And it ultimately is considered a bomb financially. I always loved it I couldn't believe I was watching this thing when it was unspooling in front of me. I had a great time with it, and I watched it again last week, and I still love it. I think it's terrific.
Is it on your list posted?
Is it on my list?
Hold it up.
Is it on your posted list?
I can't read
I can't read a damn thing.
I cannot read it.
I can't read it.
Where is it? What does it say?
It says Speed Racer.
No.
Mark is once again correct.
Your son seems to be interested in only one thing. All he talks about, all he seems capable of thinking about, is automobile racing.
Oh, shit.
Speed 2008's Speed Racer, written and directed by the Wachowskis, starring Emile Hirsch, Christina Ricci, John Goodman, Susan Sarandon, Matthew Fox, Scott Porter. Music score by Michael Giacchino. Director of photography David Tattersall, who did the Star Wars prequels, among other things. I'm not a Speed Racer fan. I watched the show a little bit growing up, but I don't think it was on, or at least at a time that was convenient for me to see it when I was growing up. So I wasn't super familiar with Speed Racer, the cartoon. I loved some of the Wachowskis' work prior to this. I loved Bound. I loved the first Matrix movie. The Matrix sequels, not so much. They're interesting, but I think they should have maybe stopped after the first one. The first one's incredible. So when this movie came out, I thought, Speed Racer, Wachowskis, you got to see it. You got to see a movie made by those filmmakers at that time. And from that opening 15-minute sequence where they're cross-cutting between young Speed in school and, present day Speed in his race, and the flashbacks to Trixie and the flashbacks to his older brother who he idolized, and that whole sequence where he's on the racetrack and you realize he's racing his brother for the speed record on that track. I found it the filmmaking and the editing in that sequence was so exhilarating and it's just so spellbinding. The energy and the visual style, it was just so colorful and outrageous. I was just smitten with that movie from that point on. And I thought maybe the movie went on a little long. I would have maybe liked it if it was maybe 10, 15 minutes shorter. But ultimately, I absolutely adore this movie. And I don't understand the critical revulsion that a lot of that it experienced, even though there are a lot of people in recent years who are stepping up and advocating for it.
I'm with Steve, man. I always thought this movie was fun. I agree. It was probably a little long, but visually, I just loved it, and I loved its energy, and I loved its vibe. And there's a cool story. It's almost everything you need to know about making movies. And this is going to sound like Star. But I heard a story from Emil Hirsch, who was telling us about this day that Matthew Fox was on set. He was shooting scene as Racer X. He was supposed to drive up, and kind of look over and give a look, right? And the Wachowskis made him do it, made him give the look again and again. And every time he gave the look, they're like, it's too much. Can you bring it down just a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit smaller? Until finally, they went through so many takes of this that Matthew Fox was like, if I give you any less, I'm going to be giving you nothing at all. And one of the Wachowskis, and I can't remember which one he said it was, said, yeah, but nothing is cool 40 feet high. That's a great story, man. Nothing is cool 40 feet high. And how do you get better than that?
And Matthew Fox looked freaking cool in that movie, I think. I mean, the mask, he looked awesome. He looked great. And I love the design. I love the way they, I'm not super familiar with the show and the characters. And I was familiar with who they were, but I wasn't a fan. But the Mach 5 looked incredible. And I loved the way it used all of the little, James Bond style gadgets that were in the car, the pachoingers, as we always called them, that make the car vault into the air and flip over, and the saw blades and all that kind of stuff. It was just so fun and inventive and energetic that I'm not guilty about it. I love it.
That's good. It's funny you say that, because I actually was really into the Speed Racer TV show when they started showing it again on MTV back in I guess it was the 90s probably. Mm-hmm. And I was a big fan of Speed Racer. And then I was one of those people that after hearing the reviews did not go to see Speed Racer. So to this day, I've not seen Speed Racer. Mm-hmm. And I know so many people like you that actually love that movie. So I guess for next year's New Year's resolution, I should probably see Speed Racer. I have it on Blu-ray. So, sitting in the closet, I probably should watch it.
No excuse.
No excuse.
Yeah,
what about you, Darren?
When I first saw it, I didn't hate it. I thought it was fun, but I've had no urge to watch it again. Because that energy you speak about, whereas it sounds like that energy transferred to you while you watched it, I felt that energy was being pulled from me as I was watching. So that's my experience with it. I thought it was, it looks great. The editing is very edity.
The movie is a lot in all ways. It wears its heart on its sleeve in its storytelling, and the visuals are relentless and incredibly colorful. And it's just, I can understand there are some critics that said the film gave them a headache, and I can understand where that comes from, because you're just getting a tremendous amount of sensory input, and it's nonstop. That's the whole thing looks like it's a live action cartoon with the bright colors and the set design and the props and everything. It never lets up.
But I don't dislike it.
Yeah. So that's
Okay.
Monday.
That's a good
Monday. So that brings us to Tuesday. And Darren Doctorman, what's your pick for Guilty Pleasures?
Well, I don't have any more guilt to give. I am not
Clearly, you're not Jewish.
I am not guilty about anything that I like, and I don't like anything that is bad in my mind. So I was at a complete blockage as to what I would pick for tonight. However, I finally, winnowed it down to something that I loved from when I was a kid, but no one else that I've ever known has, at least outwardly, shared that. And it's yet another of these movies that showed endlessly on New York television, at least a couple times a year, maybe more, usually on WNEW, Channel 5, which was the Metromedia station. And it played, I think, maybe during Easter, maybe during Thanksgiving. I don't remember exactly when, but I remember it being on a lot, and I watched it a lot, and I memorized the freaking thing, and it is ingrained in my brain, so I can play it back at any point. And this is one of the first movies that actually had that position in my mind. It is a musical from 1952, starring Danny Kaye as Hans Christian Andersen. And all of you are just completely blank.
We got nothing.
So I picked a good one.
He summoned a good one, big one.
It is this, goofy sort of. It's not a biography movie. It is the movie calls itself a fairy tale about Hans Christian Andersen. So it's really funny, and Siri apparently agrees.
Check it out.
Thank you, Siri. The music is by Frank Lesser, who, of course, did so many.
Wait, is the movie called Hans Christian Andersen?
Hans Christian Andersen, yes.
Danny Kaye plays Hans Christian Andersen.
A tale I told and it turned to gold as a tale can be. I laugh, ha ha, but I blush a bit, for I realize while I'm reading it that it's also reading me. By Hans Christian Andersen.
His performance is the greatest the star has ever given.
Oh, I don't remember
insane.
that.
I thought it was called the Hans Christian Andersen story. No, it's just Hans
It is
Christian Andersen.
just Hans Christian Andersen. I believe
There was a remake called just Hans, where he teams up with Thumbelina and they fight crime.
They fight Hans Gruber.
That's right.
I'd like to see that.
Me too, actually, now that I think about it.
It was directed by King Vidor, one of the big, huge directors in
Also fought
Hollywood.
Godzilla. Wait, no, that was...
I love King Vidor. And in fact, he has one of my films for Silence Week, if we ever do Silent Week.
Sorry, Darren.
He was one of those
I'm
giants.
sorry you're so young, Ashley, that you haven't
I am
seen it
sorry. Because
before.
I'm delighted by this, actually.
I think you should see it. It's I think it's on Amazon Prime for just the cost of Amazon Prime.
And Channel 5 in New York.
Well, that's the thing. No channels show these movies anymore, and so they aren't forced on kids, and that's the difference from when we were growing up to now. Is that kids have so much selection of stuff that they know that they want to see.
Yeah.
But they haven't been exposed to things that they might want to see, but they don't know it, or they may actually react against it if you suggest it.
Right, yeah, kids can choose exactly what they want to watch. They can watch the same. I'm sure your kids have probably just wanted to watch the same movie over and over. I've certainly had friends and whose kids or nieces and nephews that just, my old writing partner's kids just walked around with a portable DVD player watching the same movie like 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah, it's
Not in my house. In fact, we watched Miracle on 34th Street last Saturday, and this Saturday we watched It's a Wonderful Life.
nice.
And both were welcomed and appreciated.
Good.
And
no one's going to poo-poo black and white in this house.
Yeah.
No. They'd
Unless it's the artist.
They'd be on the streets.
But the gist of the movie is that Hans Christian Andersen is a poor cobbler, a shoemaker who lives in Odense, which is in
The Netherlands?
the Netherlands. And he basically spends most of his days telling stories to the children of the town and getting them in trouble by having them be absent from school. And so the local magistrates and schoolmasters are very angry at him, and they basically boot him out of town. And so because...
Puss in Boots.
Yeah, not exactly. But so he makes the decision to take his apprentice with him. There are always two. There are, and they go to Copenhagen. But in the
Sabotage.
Now, Copenhagen is the preferred pronunciation of that city by the people who are there, because Copenhagen is the way that the Nazis would pronounce it. So, unfortunately, this movie in 1952 pronounces it the Nazi way. So, but it's you've probably heard the song without knowing where it's from. It's called "Wonderful, Wonderful Copenhagen." And there are tons, or maybe you haven't, Ashley. I know.
I was just thinking about the context of that, but that's the Nazi way.
Yes.
I just pictured this chorus line of Nazis singing "Wonderful, Wonderful Copenhagen," and there's a whole movie happening
that
in my
would be
head
an
right
interesting
now.
movie in itself. Perhaps
Wunderbar,
for the producers too.
Copenhagen, wunderbar.
I am thoroughly delighted.
But it's a wonderful song. It's stagey. It is surreal. It is odd, but it is beautiful, and there are very sweet moments in it. He tells a story to a little sick kid in Copenhagen who has his hair shaved off because he's getting treatment for a sickness, and that child's father happens to be the publisher of the newspaper, and through that, the newspaper starts publishing Hans Christian Andersen's stories. And so and there is also an unrequited love story between Hans and this foreign ballerina who he falls in love with and writes a ballet for her. And it's very sweet, and it's beautiful, and the songs are, well, at least if you've seen the movie 150 times the way I have, you can't get the songs out of your head. There's one song where he does sing about Thumbelina. He's put in jail for some reason because he's just an anti-conformist. But he sings this little song, and he paints a little face on his thumb, and he's singing this song to a little girl outside the window of the jail, who I just found out tonight her name is Beverly Washburn, and she played
from Star Trek.
In Star Trek, in the Deadly Years, she was Galway, Lieutenant Galway.
Yeah.
And she said that that's a horrible place to put a mirror. But the little girl in the movie was her, and I just realized that tonight. So it's, there's always a Star Trek connection. Always.
So is this movie a biopic?
Well, that's what I said.
Biopic?
It's not a biopic.
Okay.
There's a crawl at the beginning of it that says, this is not a biography. This is a fairy tale about Hans Christian Andersen. So it's really fun, and Danny Kaye is great in it, and he does all his famous fast talking and singing and a little bit of dancing, but it's really beautiful, and for someone who likes that kind of thing, they would just love it.
It's so funny because the commercial is now going back to me on Channel
You
5.
remember?
I do remember. I never watched the movie, but I remember the commercial.
Yeah.
You know, I guess it was the Nazi Copenhagen song. No, it was, but I do remember it. I remember
They did have that clip in the
those.
commercial. They had the clip where he's telling the Emperor's New Clothes story, and
Because
yeah, go ahead.
Channel 11 had the best movies.
Right.
Channel 5 had like the second best movies, and the worst movies were always on Channel 9.
Right.
WOR.
OR.
They always had the cheapy, shitty movies.
Right.
But, you know, so 11 was the best, WPIX, and then Channel 5 was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But, you know, and this sounds just perfect for Channel 5.
It was, and it was forever on there while I lived there.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That is wild. I definitely remember that commercial. Wow. that's interesting. What a bizarre little movie.
It is.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, I don't suppose anyone else has anything to say about Hans Christian Andersen.
9.
No. Okay. Well, that brings us down. A great pick, actually. That's a great pick. So Wednesday, that brings us to Ashley. And as we often say, every week is a guilty pleasure with Ashley, other than Annie Hall. So let's see what he has to say this week.
Well, you know, it's hump day. Oh man, yeah, it's impossible to go out of the box this week. So I think I'm going to go with Steve's philosophy on this, which is apparently my philosophy, which is that this is really F you, I liked it week. Rather than guilty pleasure, because I guiltlessly love this movie. And I think the reason why it was on my mind was because Steve and I have been kicking off the Cartoon Barroom, soon to premiere on the Electric Surge Network. So, you know, I was thinking about bars and movies that happen in them. And my pick for this week is the movie that, well, it's not the movie that really made him a star, but it was the movie that made him a star in my eyes, Patrick Swayze, in 1989's honky-tonk Western, Roadhouse.
Can I buy you guys a drink? Guess not.
Patrick Swayze is
Dalton.
I thought you'd be bigger.
Opinions vary.
When he's around, anything can happen.
How does a guy like you end up a bouncer?
Just lucky, I guess.
And usually does.
If somebody gets in your face, I want you to be nice.
Don't be rude!
Ask him to walk, but be nice.
Help this gentleman to the door.
Until it's time to not be nice.
Starring the great Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott, who says cool stuff like, man puts a gun in your face, you got two choices, stand there and die or kill the motherfucker. I mean, come on, man. Roadhouse was directed by a dude named Rowdy Harrington. How do you get better for a movie like Roadhouse than a guy named Rowdy? I mean, he sounds like he works in a roadhouse. I don't really know what else Rowdy Harrington did. I don't actually care, because Rowdy Harrington did this. He gave us this movie, which is this bare-knuckled brawler of a film that, frankly, on some level, could have been at home in Kung Fu Week, because it is chock full of, like, you know, fortune cookie philosophy, and really great fights that are just incredibly brutal. I haven't seen anything like that except one of my other very favorite shows of all time. I almost said Cobra Kai. It's not like Cobra Kai at all. Although it kind of is. Like Banshee, which is a whole other conversation. But the fights are amazing. And really, the structure of this movie is dirt simple. It's essentially a Western that has been it's been updated and made contemporary. And the premise is that Patrick Swayze plays a bouncer, but he's what's known as a cooler, right?
He's basically a sheriff.
Yeah, exactly. It's like his job is to settle things down, right? And he tells his guys, it's like, you know, you be nice. You always be nice until it's time not to be nice, right? And then when it's time not to be nice, nobody is less nice than Patrick Swayze. He gets hired. Again, it's sort of following like the template of a Western. But he's the sheriff who gets brought in by like the mayor of the beleaguered little town, and the mayor means well, but he doesn't really have the resources to put up with the rich guy who's taken the place over. And the rich guy doesn't want the sheriff coming in and cleaning things up because like things being dirty and messed up is good for the rich guy.
He's making money.
Yeah, it's thoroughly enjoyable. It is, in spite of what I said about sort of the fortune cookie wisdom, it's weirdly unpretentious. It's just fun. It's right sized. The violence is great. Patrick Swayze is great. Sam Elliott has never in his life been less than great. Sam Elliott plays Sam Elliott in every movie that he's in, but I love Sam Elliott. Kelly Lynch, who is not great, but the real love story is between Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott. So, anyway, I love Roadhouse, and it's a delight to me. And I always love when I see it. Look, sometimes violence in movies can be fun, and I dig that too. But I appreciate it in some ways when there are fights in movies that feel like fights that could happen in the sense that people are getting hurt, including the hero. That it sounds like things are painful and it looks like things are painful, and it's just, it makes you respect the violence in the movie rather than sort of sitting back and kind of golf clapping at how pretty it is, even when the moves are great, and they are. But yeah, my pick is Roadhouse.
Oh, wow. I know you want to defend that not being a guilty pleasure. That's a great guilty pleasure. It's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
You needn't feel any guilt with that one because it is what it is.
It is what it is. And that's true. It didn't set out to be Citizen Kane, clearly. But
imagine how much better Citizen Kane would have been with Sam Elliott. Rosebud. Come on.
Well, I mean, that's what's so great in Big Lebowski, where they just have so much fun with the meta-ness of Sam Elliott, the dude abides. We're just narrating the whole movie. It's so great. But yeah, no, that's
take comfort in the
you have to go so much.
Taking her easy for all of us.
I mean, it's so great. And then isn't he like a philosophy major or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
he's a Zen Buddhist. He's always meditating. Right. That's awesome. Patrick Swayze.
Yes.
It's super fun. And now, did they remade it or they did a sequel?
There was a sequel that was kind of terrible. That is, I barely remember. And you realize that, it's the kind of thing that makes you appreciate the charisma of Patrick Swayze. It's and a movie like that I don't think would have worked if it had been one of our standard action heroes. I'm trying to imagine Stallone in that film, and it's a totally different film. It's like Patrick Swayze feels like a real guy, like you could have a beer with, and there might be a fight in that bar, and you'd be glad that he's on your side. It's just he has a different vibe, man, and it works.
I think it's just
they're going to remake it with James Marsden. But it's true. I mean, it takes a special kind of. It can't be like Stallone, It can't be so. I mean, the problem that a lot of people have with Total Recall is that the Dick story was basically, just a normal guy, and then you put Schwarzenegger in it, and he's all big and muscle bound.
Is that anything like
he's not an everyman?
Is that anything like a two-handed Dick story?
Philip K. Dick, the great author, the great sci-fi author. Jesus Christ!
Well, wasn't Total Recall originally a vehicle for what's his name?
Well, David Cronenberg was going to direct it for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, but starring I'm blanking on his freaking name.
I thought it was Richard Dreyfuss.
Richard Dreyfuss, yeah.
That's what
I would love to see that. I would love to see the Richard Dreyfuss or Kermit in it.
We've got to get to Mars. Don't you understand? You've got what you want. Give these people air.
I want to see that one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes, Richard Dreyfuss in Total Recall. That would be awesome. And then you have Arnold as Johnny Camp. So
consider that a divorce.
Yeah, but who plays the Sharon Stone role if she's married to Richard Dreyfuss? Terry Garr,
Miss Piggy, because everyone else is Muppets.
Everyone else is Muppets. That's great. Total Recall with just Richard Dreyfuss and the Muppets.
That's the name of the book. Everyone else is Muppets.
We should just do a podcast called
Everyone Else is Muppets.
And each week we tell the story of a different movie and who the star is and who the Muppet and what happens.
Hilarious.
And everyone else is Muppets. Everyone comes to Muppets. Oh my God, that's great. Well, Ashley, another fine pick, and I have to tell you, I do enjoy it a lot more than Howard the Duck.
Thank you. I enjoyed it a lot more than Howard the Duck.
Yeah, that Roadhouse is one of those movies that I missed when it came out because it just looked like the kind of movie I wouldn't like or just like goofy, so I didn't see it. But I saw it a few years ago and really enjoyed it. So there you go.
At a Fellini festival?
Yeah.
It was a double feature with Cinema Paradiso.
Well, you guys have made it incredibly difficult for me here on Thursday because first of all, Ashley tried to take my day. No. And but you know, I'm torn because you sort of laid out the parameters. It's like, do I go with the it's great pick, or do I go with the genuine guilty pleasure? Because like, if I was gonna, because I'm torn because if I was gonna go with the FU, I think it's great. I might be inclined to go with David Lynch's Dune, but because I don't genuinely feel it's a guilty pleasure, I actually feel it's a much better movie than people give it credit for. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm going to go with the guilty pleasure, because there may be time to talk about Dune when we get to the end of the year, and when we get to, or maybe when we get to Friday, who knows? But I will say that. You know, I'm gonna depart from the FU. I think it's great and go straight, because the difference with a guilty pleasure is a movie you know is bad,
so you're just gonna
like
go
it anyway.
Directly with the FU.
No, so
it's FU week here on the 430 movie.
Yeah, because the FU is like something that's like people don't like it, but you think it's good. Like I remember when Dune came out, all the reviews said, it's impossible to understand. It makes no sense. I remember Siskel and Ebert. Siskel went off, who I normally liked quite a bit, would go off and say, it makes no sense. Now, I did not read the Frank Herbert book, right? Was not familiar. I didn't really know it. I knew a lot of people who read it. I did not read it. I had no trouble understanding Dune.
Yeah, nor did I.
Actually pay attention to the dialogue and what the characters are saying. Yeah. It's very easy to understand. I remember them saying, "Oh, if they don't, they have to give out like a thing that explains the whole plot, or you'll never understand what's going on."
Well, they did that, didn't they? Didn't they hand out a little page of like definitions and
a glossary?
Yeah. A glossary. Yeah.
I liked it better when Apocalypse Now they just gave out the credits, you know. on the thing, but I remember with Dune, you know, the production design is so unbelievably great. You know, the look is so unique for a science fiction movie that it's like it's impossible to just dismiss it as a guilty pleasure. I think that does it an injustice. So I will go with a movie that is truly terrible, in much the way that last year I picked Tough Guys Don't Dance because of its horrible dialogue and because it made no sense. And because it thought it was saying something important, but really it was ridiculous. So my pick this year is a movie that I've mentioned before on the show, but it will get an official slot. It will officially be entered into the pantheon of 430 movie picks. That's the 1981 Michael Crichton anti-classic, Looker.
Dude!
Now
that's a good one.
I want it. You probably think I'm beautiful, Dr. Roberts. But I'm not.
I want it.
My nose is 0.2 millimeters too narrow, and my cheekbones are 0.4 millimeters too high.
I want it too.
I do television commercials. They want a certain look.
I did surgery on several girls a few months back, commercial actresses, and there have been some suicides.
Michael Crichton, first of all, it meets the first criteria for guilty pleasure. It has an amazing one sheet. Listen, I remember I went to see the movie despite the reviews because the one sheet was awesome. It had this stack of like 8 or 10 TVs. This is back when TVs were those big CRT behemoths, as Steve Wright might say. And then there's a silhouetted woman like draped across the TVs, and on top of it, it said "Looker." Okay, so that's one thing that makes a great guilty pleasure. What's next? Sean LaFleur sings. Well, let's see. Yeah, Sean LaFleur, the old Sean LaFleur, sings the theme song incessantly at Comic-Con when he's drunk. Okay, so Sean LaFleur was an old friend of ours who left. Yes, who left Los Angeles. He had written for The Onion. He was out here, get his big break in Hollywood. He got signed by a big agent, but he decided that the Hollywood life was not for him. He went back to New York to become, wait for it, a private detective / DJ. Okay, private detective / DJ. But Sean, not particularly. He was the one who used to tell the joke, which we found hysterical, even though it wasn't funny. So, what's the Emperor's ship? If the Executor is Darth Vader's ship, what's the Emperor's ship? Emperor's Choice. It's like what?
Well, that was actually my joke, but I'm fine with giving it to me.
But it was funny when Sean told it. So Sean would go around and sell, and it mistakenly said that it was Kim Carnes who sang the Looker song, but it is not. It was oh God, what's her name? Sad and the something or others. I mean, it's amazing. I can't remember her because nobody remembers this movie or that song. But has a very catchy song because, of course, the movie opens with this montage of plastic surgery and this beautiful blonde who's being stalked by a guy who looks like he's obsessed with Tom Selleck. He has this giant 80s bushy mustache and looks like Tom Selleck in Magnum, but he's not. And in fact, my favorite thing is he in the credits, he doesn't even get a name. He has a huge role in this movie. He's Mustache Guy. That's his credit. He doesn't even get a name. He's like the main henchman. It would be like Odd Job being called Hat Guy. But instead, this guy is like Mustache Guy. So basically Albert Finney is this plastic surgeon. And this is before Access Hollywood and TMZ and the Kardashians, where people talked freely about plastic surgery. It was something that you didn't talk about, why is Carissa not around? Oh, she went away on a vacation for a couple of weeks because really she was bandaged up getting her nose job, right? And so Albert Finney is one of these high-end Beverly Hills plastic surgeons. Now, of course, I lived in New York at the time, so everything seems so glamorous in Beverly Hills. All these offices on Wilshire and his beach house in Malibu. It's like, oh, California, that's where you want to go. And so Mustache Guy has this light thing that he fires at people that makes time freeze, not literally, but so he ends up, I don't know exactly how he kills this woman in the teaser, but it's great. It's great. He just uses the light thing. She's getting ready to go meet her boyfriend or something, and then freezes time, and somehow she ends up falling out the window on Wilshire Boulevard onto a car, and it's just a horrible thing. We find out a bunch of these beautiful models are being killed. And Albert Finney has done surgery on all of them. This is the Albert Finney you may recall from Tom Jones and Scrooge and such legendary motion pictures, who's now playing Dr. Larry Roberts. Brilliant plastic surgeon. And the police, Dorian Harewood, who's a policeman, Lieutenant Masters, I believe, he's investigating the case, and it's very suspicious that Dr. Roberts has done surgery on all these girls who are being killed, but it really is a sinister plan hatched by James Coburn, who's the CEO of the Reston Corporation, which is basically recreating women very, very ahead of its time, recreating these girls in CGI to use subliminal messages in commercials to control people. Ultimately, they want to control the government. It's not unlike Future World, where they were creating robots to replace these people, but it's all very ham-fisted and ridiculous, and it makes no sense.
But it has all come to pass.
Exactly, the movie's ridiculous and ludicrous, and yet it was so ahead of its time. The idea of these CGI recreations of characters and of people and how they would use it's not so much commercials, but now social media to manipulate people. It really was a very prescient movie. But of course, Michael Crichton was so good at seeing the future. He just does it in such a clumsy way in this movie, but it has that great song. She's a looker.
Which I looked it up. Music and lyrics by Barry Dvorak, who wrote the theme from SWAT, by the way. It was performed by Sue Sad.
Too sad, yeah, and it is truly sad. And that she did that, and "Radioactive Dreams" was her other big song in the '80s, which was for another movie.
That theme song was great, though, dude. Like
it was great.
And I watched that movie when I was on HBO again and again and again. I was 11 years old. I have no idea why.
You know what? I take it back. I shouldn't have used this for Guilty Pleasure Week. I should have saved it for movies we watched
on
HBO.
On HBO.
Well,
yeah,
because
sorry, it's already out there.
I guess I'll go with Bachelor Party, but
hookers to the left, cocaine to the right.
But
those are lookers.
Lookers to the left.
But I mean, Looker was on HBO all the time. But I did see it in the theater. I was one of the few people to see it there. It was a huge bomb.
Yeah,
everyone saw it on HBO, and in fact, I saw it many times on HBO when and I've told this story before because in high school. I used to cut class with this guy, Larry, and we'd go across the street. He lived across the street from the high school. And we'd go up and his housekeeper would give us cookies and we'd watch HBO for hours. So because I didn't have HBO because in Brooklyn, they didn't have cable for many years and New York had it and this part of Brooklyn had it. So like we would just go and watch movies and eat cookies. And it was great.
Part of it was shot at my old employer, Art Center College of Design in Pasadena.
Oh, interesting. That's one of the things made me move out to California.
Futuristic building.
And you know who else is it? We didn't even talk about Susan Day.
Susan Day,
Partridge Family.
She's luminous. Especially when she's on the CRT.
Oh yeah, well, it was one of the first examples of CG.
Yeah.
And where they were recreating her through CG on the monitors, and of course, she was very upset because it was a PG movie, and she had to do nudity for this, and she was good, the Partridge Family. I mean, she was a real family type person, and she wasn't thrilled about it. But Michael Crichton, this was going to be a big break for her in features. Big break.
Yeah.
And and it's just and I have to say. Apparently this movie was really cut to shreds, and I understand there's an interesting commentary on the Warner Archives Blu-ray release, which I need to listen to. But the last 20 minutes is actually pretty cool because they're like the James Coburn is doing this demonstration, and basically Albert Finney is trying to save Susan Day, and there's this whole like gun, it's sort of a stalking slow motion gunfight. Through the sets, that's a live broadcast that's going on. And, ultimately, and then of course, James Coburn ends up getting involved after Mustache Guy is shot. But it's kind of really cool. See, that's the thing about Crichton. It's like Westworld we talked about. Not a great movie, but some great ideas in it. Just execution. I mean, that's the same thing. Like Jurassic Park is really good because it was in the hands of a better filmmaker with Spielberg. It's the same thing with Looker. So much going on that's interesting that makes you ponder all these, especially in 1981. About manipulating advertising. Sometimes it's very heavy-handed. At one point, Susan Day confronts Albert Finney. I wrote this line down. Susan Day says, "I could be dead," and they're still asking, and the police don't care. They're still asking questions. He says, "I have the right to know if someone is trying to kill me." She says to Albert Finney, "I have the right to know if someone's trying to kill me." So she then says, "Do you have a gun?" And he says, "No." So she's going to go to her parents. She goes to her parents. Her parents are watching TV, and they're so hooked on watching TV, they can't even give her the time of day. It's like kids on their phones now. Like they can't even be bothered because they're so obsessed watching the TV, even though their daughter is being stalked by Mustache Guy. So it's such an entertaining movie. And it remains to this day, and I wondered because this was always my go-to guilty pleasure for years, and I wondered, does it hold up? Is it still a pleasure, or is it just guilt? And I watched a little of it last night just to see if it should be this or Dune or Logan's Run, and it was clearly Looker. It was clear. It was always you. It was. I knew it was you, Looker, and it was. It's just so delightful.
Bop.
And it's not a movie that's particularly well known outside of
this
table. Our age group. This table, and but it's really wonderful. And if you haven't seen it, you can. I know it's on iTunes and other streaming platforms. You can download it, or but I would recommend the Warner Archives Blu-ray release because, of course, it has the Michael Crichton commentary, which I remember getting on. I don't know if it was DVD or on Laserdisc, because of course I had the Laserdisc. I think I still have the Laserdisc because I like the one sheet so much, which is just really cool. But it just goes to prove, 1980. See, to me, everyone Goonies and stuff. To me, I was like Looker, 1981. That's when the 80s.
That's the 40th anniversary this year of Looker.
Correct.
Oh my! Wait, it's the 40th anniversary of Looker. Oh my God!
40 years of Looker.
It was 40 years ago today.
Oh my God! Now I have to pick it.
See,
40 years
I remember you years ago. You would do screening marathons at my house, and we would periodically do Guilty Pleasures Day, and this was one of the movies you inflicted on the group, and I'm pretty sure you brought their Laserdisc, and it might have been that same one when I brought my choice. I had
the villain.
Yes, the villain, which I saw in the theater twice when it came out and thought it was pretty damn funny, and I hadn't seen it since. So I thought, I'm going to show the villain. It's a fun movie that's kind of goofy, and I don't think we lasted more than 10 minutes watching it because it was so bad we had to turn it off. If you've never heard of this movie, it's a live-action Roadrunner cartoon with Kirk Douglas as the titular character, the villain, and Arnold Schwarzenegger as the handsome stranger who's the hero.
You remember what else I showed that day? I showed the last 10 minutes of Casino Royale.
Yeah.
With Woody Allen as Jimmy Bond.
Mm-hmm.
Darren, were you there? Did you show something?
I must have. I can't remember.
I'm sure he was.
I remember it now that you brought it up, Steve. I remember like it was yesterday.
We showed
not like 40 years ago.
The Last Dinosaur. I think.
That was Paul Salamo's pick. Was Last Dinosaur.
Paul or Scott Hyman.
Or Scott Hyman. It was either Scott Hyman or Paul Salamo. That was terrible. Except that Richard Boone was in it, which was cool.
I think Paul might have showed Space Camp.
Oh yeah, maybe it was Scott Hyman who brought Last Dinosaur.
Or whatever. I don't remember.
Right. Yeah.
Those were heady days.
Empress Choice.
So that brings us to Friday.
Brings us to Friday. So that really is a question for you, the listener. What is your guilty pleasure? Why do you think, or what is your FU? I think it's great. We know what Peter Holmstrom's is.
And Paul Holmstrom, whoever the hell he is.
No, what do you and like, I mean, like I mentioned Logan's Run, like, I think that's kind of a guilty pleasure. It's not a very good movie.
Yeah, but I think it has gone into the pantheon of, classic sci-fi movies, though, whether or not it's good or not.
Are there any other movies you kind of want to put out there? Or?
I want to proffer one. Showgirls.
That's a good choice.
That's a great choice.
That's a good choice.
It's terrible, but I can't not watch it.
It is one of those kind of relentlessly entertaining, goofy, over-the-top, overheated, melodramatic movies with
it has Paul Muad'Dib in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember I went to see it at the Beverly Center, which are the worst theaters in LA. Right. Mercifully, may they rest in peace, those theaters. And definitely not rest in power. They were the fucking worst. So I saw Showgirls there. And I remember thinking, this is the worst remake of All About Eve I've ever seen. And I didn't like it. And yet, of course, I had to buy it on Laserdisc, where I proceeded not to watch it. I bought it on DVD, where I did not watch it. I bought it on Blu-ray, where I did not watch it. And I'm wondering, I just remember it was awful.
It is.
I remember Gina Gershon being okay.
Gina Gershon, it's a hoot. The movie is a hoot.
And
I remember it being really fun, but then it got really Verhoeven violent. Where I remember like it was it was very violent, like a woman. There was a lot of violence against a woman, like she was being beat up or something. And that's when it sort of lost me, because I did think it was campy fun, and then it suddenly got really super violent, which I don't mind uber violence. But
remember, it's just a movie, and it didn't actually happen.
Yeah, I know, but I just felt like it didn't fit that movie. But it's Verhoeven, so I guess. What do you expect?
Look, none of the violence in Verhoeven movies is appropriate level for the movie. So
yeah, well, look, and that's why I would not pick Starship Troopers for guilty pleasures, because I will die on that hill. I do not think it's a guilty pleasure. I think it's a legitimately great movie.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I got one I'll throw out that was my secondary choice, and this is a movie from 2001, another movie based on a cartoon. That I never watched, but went and saw the movie because I try to see most everything, and I thought it was a blast. And it's Josie and the Pussycats.
Oh, I agree.
Which is a really fun movie based on the cartoon, starring Rachel Lee Cook, Tara Reid, Rosario Dawson, Parker Posey, Alan Cumming. And it's this really sly sort of satire of the music business, and it's a ton of fun. But it was a bomb when it came out, and I don't think it's very particularly critically well received now or then, but it's a really fun movie. And it has great songs, fun characters.
It has long tails and ears for hats.
No, I totally agree, Steve. I remember I couldn't understand why people did not like that movie so much. I think it's super fun. I really liked it. I have it on DVD or Blu-ray. Never watched it again, but I really like Josie and the Pussycats.
I watched it. Really I watched it last year on DVD. I don't know if it's out on Blu-ray, but I watched my DVD and for this podcast because I thought I might pick it for, I don't know, movies about music week or something.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, but ultimately didn't pick it.
Yeah, I thought you were going to pick Awakening, the Buck Rogers pilot. Any other pick? Should we pick Friday, or are we leaving it to the audience?
I just want to throw out very quickly, but although I think we should leave it to the audience, what I would have nominated would have been Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, which I think was more maligned than it deserved to be because it was not what the audience expected. They didn't get that, John Carpenter had this idea of making the Halloween movies more of an anthology. Yeah. But it's actually pretty well done.
It's very well done, actually.
And it's
scary.
Yeah, it's legit scary.
Yeah.
So it's not quite guilty or FU, but
yeah.
You don't really know much about Halloween. Halloween, the barriers will be down between the real and the unreal. And the dead might be looking in. The last great one took place 3,000 years ago when the hills ran red.
Halloween, the children. You happen to know anything about this Cochran?
All I can tell you, mister, is watch out. He's watching you, friend, I guarantee you that.
Trick or treat.
Hey, Mr. Cochran, just what is the final process?
Fellas, I was just kidding.
Witchcraft. To us, it was a way of controlling our environment.
I actually want to go back on what I said because, we did the first Guilty Pleasures. Life Force was our Friday pick. And I think there's a case to be made for asking the audience for their pick and still picking Halloween Season of the Witch as our Friday pick, because that is a movie that is so looked down upon by most. And I think it's a movie, I can't speak for Steve, but I know Darren just said how much he likes it. You did. I think it's a great movie too. I think that what killed it was, at the time people were expecting to see
Michael Myers.
Michael Myers and
the killer, not the Saturday Night Live.
It's like Michael Myers as Michael Myers. Hey, baby.
It's a terrific movie, and Dan O'Hurley, our fun who you loved in The Last Starfighter, is back, and it's a great way.
Dick, I'm very disappointed
to have continued from RoboCop to continue that franchise. Was very clever, and unfortunately it just was mismarketed and audiences weren't ready for it, but it's a real Halloween perennial. I think people love it. I mean, I know Brian Fuller is obsessed with it. Silver Shamrock. I mean, that's a good guilty pleasure. I think that's
agree.
a good pick. What do you think, Steve?
I've only seen it once, and it was only a couple years ago. I've never been a particular fan of slasher movies, so of course I've seen Halloween and I liked it, but it's not really my genre. It's not really my bag, man. But I watched Halloween 3 because I wanted to know what all the fuss was about, and I thought it was fine. I don't have any strong feelings about it. That's what I'm saying.
All right.
Okay. Well, that brings us. Let's recap the picks for this week on Guilty Pleasures. On Monday, Steve Melching.
Monday is Speed Racer.
Speed Racer.
By the Wachowskis.
Tuesday, he's Hans Christian Andersen.
On Wednesday, Ashley Miller.
I want you to be nice till it's time to not be nice. Roadhouse.
And Thursday, she's a looker. Okay. And then Friday, we're going to go with Halloween 3. Are we going to do it? Let's do it, Steve.
Do it.
Come on.
Let's do it.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. But that doesn't mean we don't want to hear your picks. And you can share your picks and grow stronger through the sharing by letting us know on Facebook at 430 Movie, the 430 Movie, or on Twitter at 430 Movie Pod. 430 Movie Pod. It's a great way to reach us. And of course, you can hear even more of our lovely dulcet insight tones when you listen to Inglourious Trexperts, which is everything you wanted to know about Star Trek and a lot more that you didn't want to know about Star Trek. And we're currently airing the remaining episodes of our 101 greatest sci-fi episodes ever. And that thing is going on and on and on, and it's not going to stop. It's like the Doomsday Machine. So
Hour 7 approaches.
That's right. And you remember that old show in LA that Jay Straczynski and Harlan Ellison used to do?
Hour 25.
Hour 24.
Hour 25.
Hour 25.
Yes.
I think we're close to hour 25 at this point. And then later this year, you want to look for Cartoon Barroom, a new podcast about animation from the twisted minds of Steve Melching and Ashley Edward Miller. They're going to have some great insights and some great guests. And, of course, check out The Best Movies Never Made from Steve Scarlatta, the producer of Jodorowsky's Dune, and Josh Miller, who wrote Sonic the Hedgehog. They do a really great show, and if you haven't checked it out yet, you'll really enjoy it. You should check that out. So I want to thank our sound engineer, both the great Bill Ritter and his new apprentice, his young apprentice, Mark Rivera, who's been helping out to keep us on schedule. So thank you, Mark. Welcome to the family. And, of course, Peter Holmstrom, we're just kidding, other than the fact that we don't agree with you at all about Batman versus Superman. But you have been an enormous help, and we deeply appreciate you being part of the team on 430 Movie.
Team.
And, of course, Zach Raggett's team. Individual achievement. and of course, our producer, Nellie Miscali. So thank you, everyone. Welcome to 2021. It's good to be back again, and we'll see you next week on the 430 Movie. Until then, Eyewitness News starts now.
This show is produced by Dean Devlin and Mark A. Altman and is an Electric Surge Network production. Engineered by Bill Ritter for the Electric Surge Network.